So there should be a delay between the question and the answer itself.
Yeah, just as the regular thing. You guys are live now.
All right, let's go ahead and begin, inshallah. We'll give it a couple of minutes and then we'll start.
Sounds good.
I can't see my mouse actually.
Assalamu alaikum. Jazakallah khair for joining. Let's go ahead and give it a couple more minutes, inshallah, and then we'll go ahead and begin.
Sounds good.
Especially considering that it's Central Time, Maghrib time. So I'm sure that many of the guys are praying right now.
Sabur, I think when you're speaking, it's not showing on the live.
I think as you start speaking, it'll pop up.
Okay. Yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
All right, let's go ahead and begin, inshallah. Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Thumma amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khair, everybody, for joining. And for those who are going to join late, again, Jazakallah khair for joining. My name is Sabur Khan, and I will be your host for today's event, inshallah. Today, we are discussing the instances and the scenarios of what happened in Youth for Jordan for our two brothers, both Wasiq and Arshak. But really, before talking about what it is that they went through and the experiences that they went through, I think it's really important to go ahead and discuss exactly why is it that this is the time that we're talking about something that's important, or these experiences specifically. And really, it boils down to one thing. In a couple of days, inshallah, very, very soon, Ramadan is approaching. And Ramadan, as everybody knows, is the month of giving, a month of where you ask for forgiveness as well. Now, with that being said, in the quarantine times that we're living in, where we're not able to see the closest of our friends, where we're isolated usually from each other, alhamdulillah, even though that's the case, this Ramadan still will not be as difficult as it will be for those who are living in some of those camps in some of those poor places, where alhamdulillah, some of us, we can still have our parents or ourselves really be working from home or be working remotely and still being able to make some sort of money. Or it might be financially difficult, but alhamdulillah, because of what system we have over here, at least we will have some sort of money coming for us, alhamdulillah. But with that being said, that's not the case everywhere else. And usually when we hear these type of stories, we're already desensitized, where when you hear about, yeah, you see the Syrians, they're struggling. You see the Palestinian refugees, they're struggling. You see the Kashmiris, they're struggling. You see everybody across the world, the Chinese, the Burmese, so on and so forth, they're struggling. And we know it and we understand it. But really, to understand and holistically internalize the struggle that they're going through, it's very, very important that we see and understand individual stories. Because if you look at the story of individuals, we'll really realize that, honestly speaking, just because of the fact that they say La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah the same way that we do, that's the only reason why they're going through so much hardship. And us living the comfortable lives that we can't even spare them a thought. So with that being said, inshallah, I want to go ahead and get us started with both brothers Arshak and Wasiq, who alhamdulillah had the opportunity to go to Jordan this past December in 2019 and be able to actually experience some of these individualistic stories and be able to physically not only just see the stories, but be able to give as a part of it as well. So with that being said, inshallah, I'll go ahead and pass it off to them. Brother Wasiq, Brother Arshak, respectively, if you could go ahead and introduce yourselves, that would be amazing.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. My name is Wasiq Javed. I'm from Houston, Texas. I study political science at the University of Houston. I've been involved with young Muslims for the past 5 to 6 years. I'm their current Mass Katie coordinator, and I'm a spoken word artist. I'll pass it off to Brother Arshak.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Arshak Naseer. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky, home of the greatest Muhammad Ali. May Allah have mercy on his soul.
I mean,
born and raised in New Jersey, and that's actually where I was introduced to YM in 2011. And I've been a part of it ever since, going every week. And alhamdulillah, by the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that I was able to be a part of multiple chapters in the Midwest.
Alhamdulillah, Jazakallah khair for those introductions. And mashallah, the guys that know you guys in YM, and honestly, you can go ahead and see them in the comments when you get the time. Everybody's hyping y'all up. Y'all, mashallah, have made, an impact on your communities locally and on the greater community as well. So again, I'm honored to even be sharing the stage with y'all. So alhamdulillah. But with that being said, inshallah, let's go ahead and begin. So as we know, you guys went to Youth for Jordan. What exactly is Youth for Jordan for the people who don't know? Where do you go? Obviously Jordan, but what do you do there? How is it? What does the program look like? All of those type of details. Wasiq, do you want to kick it off?
Yeah, for sure. So the Youth for Jordan program is a youth empowerment program by Helping Hand for Relief and Development. HHRD, Helping Hand for Relief and Development, is a international relief organization. They provide humanitarian aid and disaster recovery across the world for any crisis, any tragedy that's occurring. They're on the front lines, providing resources, providing aid, and whatever medical supplies are needed. So specifically in the MENA region, which is Middle East and North Africa, the main office is in Amman, Jordan. And so the entire program was arranged by HHRD MENA and by their staff. And so Helping Hand, Middle East and North African region, their staff is the one who welcomed us. It's and specifically the Youth for Jordan program is a 1-week humanitarian service aid program where youth all across the nation apply and go to Jordan for 1 week to deliver service and humanitarian aid to the Syrian refugees, Palestinian refugees, and local needy Jordanians there as well. And so this was the overview of the program. And with that, I'll pass it back to you.
Gotcha. So with that being said, when exactly did you go? I know that I mentioned December. So how is the climate over there? When you went over there, how was the dynamic of the people that you met? Did you meet them first when you landed in Jordan, or Did you meet them at like an airport here together first before getting over there?
Yeah, for sure. So we actually had a orientation in New York prior to us leaving, and so we kind of all met each other in New York. All the brothers flying in from across the nation, and then when we traveled together on the plane ride, when we arrived to Jordan, the Helping Hand staff are the ones who received us, and we didn't know each other previously at all. I know Arshak, you wanted to mention this funny story of how we all kind of like broke bonds going to Lowe's. Actually, I don't know if you want us to mention that.
Absolutely. Like none of us knew each other except me and Wasiq. We were put together from all different parts of the country, and we met up in New York, and we had a few hours to kill, and they were mentioning us going around New York City, exploring. Some of them have never been to New York City before, so right away I was like, I got this. I can take y'all around, show you guys around. And what was crazy is someone mentioned, yo, let's go to Lowe's across the street. And we threw away all the plans that we could have been doing in New York City. And all of a sudden we're on this trip by foot to Lowe's. And on the way there, we stopped at the carpet store. We started having rap battle. We started making negotiation deals with the workers there. It was comedy, and it was so fun to be around a great group of brothers, different characters, different talents, and it was just, we clicked right away, and it was uphill from there.
So it seems like y'all instantly bonded, even though that was supposed to be the first time y'all meet.
That's what Islam is, man. You find anything to get along with people. You know, one of the other brothers, he started freestyling, so obviously I connected because I'm a poet, and so you know, it was that's what, you know, the entire trip actually, we just came to know each other, and by the end, and you'll hear through the stories today, we are lifelong friends, and to this day, you know, one or two brothers on that trip, I consider them like my best friends in the entire world. So definitely.
That's amazing, mashallah. So you went to New York, you had the orientation, and then from there you went to Jordan directly and were received by the Helping Hand team or the staff over there. How was the staff over there? How were they? What was your impression of them when you went?
I think the hospitality was unmatched, man. They opened us with open arms, and they said the phrase, "You are most welcome." And I think they said that about 1,000 times until it was built into my heart. And that's something that stuck with me. And I think they really meant it, because the way they treated their staff, the way they treated the orphans, the way they treated the people, pure love. And honestly, you just have to see it to experience. And I miss being around them because of the love they showed just with us, even though we didn't know them before.
That's amazing, subhanAllah. Wasiq, did you have similar?
Yeah, no, for sure. I remember the first night we're in the hotel, and the first, you know, person, he starts off and he says, you know, that anything that you need, like, I'm at your service. He was like, you know, you can call me in the middle of the night. He went back to his home. We're sleeping in a hotel, and he was like, look, you can call me in the middle of the night. I'll be there for you. And yeah, their character, man, it was subhanAllah, like, just down to earth grown men, you know, coming down to, you know, young adolescent teenagers, young adults. And I think it was just amazing, the sincerity that they have, the genuineness that they had in them, and it carried out with the orphans that they're serving, and all the work that they do.
That's amazing. So when I went to Jordan, same type of reactions I had as well. That phrase, you know, anything you need, I'm at your service. Just like how Arshak said about "you're most welcome" being said 1,000 times, that's exactly how it was with that phrase as well. Literally, I remember the first day, the first instance that we met with them, I was greeted with, you know, they were like, "Did you have breakfast?" And we said no. So they brought us this big box of just shawarma and fries and everything, and it was so loaded. And they forced us to eat that breakfast before we even, you know, went to our first destination. So, mashallah, amazing staff, and I definitely do, you know, miss them as well, mashallah. So, with that being said, obviously, you're there now. You've not only met the staff, but now you're about to start the actual program of Youth for Jordan. So, with that being said, what did the day look like? How are the days in general? You know, were they long days? Did you go somewhere specific? Was it broken down into like specific regions? How exactly did that look?
Yeah, so each and every single day, what was a new thing we experienced in it. With day one, and we can begin with day one, we get paired with an orphan. You'll see in this picture here, each and every single person on the trip from Youth for Jordan, all the brothers, we each assigned a mentee. You can see me on the bottom left. I'm with my mentee Hamza. Arshak is there in the middle in his yellow jacket. And we went to the Dead Sea, and it was more chill and relaxed. And then as the days progress, we start to see the conditions of the refugees. So it builds up. So the next day we visit the Helping Hand Orphanage home. Then we go on day 3 to Al Ghaza and Al Jaras camp. Then we go to Al Mafraq on the last day. And so each and every single day was a new encounter, a new experience, and no day ever looked the same. So yeah, Arshak, if you have anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And also another thing we missed out was the weather. It was unexpected. It was freezing cold. And a lot of us, we're from America, and like we thought we know what cold is. And then when you go out there, especially in the desert, it's freezing cold.
Wow, never expected that, to be the case. But so you mentioned, Wasiq, that you were paired with orphans. So did you go with the orphans to the Dead Sea? Was it a full day trip, or how did that exactly look?
Well, I think you were cutting off a bit. I don't know if it's just me.
All good. So I was saying that the first day you said that you were paired with orphans. So how was that day? How did that day look like? Did you just go with the orphans everywhere that you went? And then the other thing you mentioned was the mentor-mentee system. So how was that interaction like as well? If you could talk about those two things.
Yeah, I think it was quite a surprise. I mean, the first day on, the Helping Hand staff were just assigning us, right? So I'm here, and then I'm here to meet Hamza. And I remember Talha, our group mentor, he's like, look, man, like you're their older brother now, and you got to come down to him. And mind you, I'm Pakistani, brown guy. I don't speak Arabic. And these orphans as well, I can't speak English. So we're on the bus ride. We're going to the Dead Sea in Jordan. And Hamza, my mentee, my little brother was with me. And so I remember he was speaking to me, and I studied Arabic for about a semester then. So I picked up on a few words, and brother Khalid, the Helping Hand staff, was helping to translate. And I remember one thing in specific, he was asking me all these questions about America. He was like, oh, tell me about America, this and that. And even in my pocket, I had my iPhone X, right, an iPhone 10. And it's in my pocket, but he sees it, and he reaches for it. And I didn't want to, show him all these techie gadgets and whatnot. So, I'm keeping it on the side. But then, I show him, and he's looking on it, and then he's looking through, all my pictures and everything. And then afterwards, he asked Brother Khalid, he was like, how can I go to America? And Brother Khalid is trying to, answer him in such a way. He's like, look, it requires a lot of papers, this and that. And I remember that the first experience was, for him, the first time meeting an American, and that cross-cultural communication and understanding was there. And let Arshak go if he has his first impression.
Absolutely. One of the things is like Wasiq, we only knew a handful of Arabic, so alhamdulillah we had a few translators with us, and the conversations and the way we were able to connect with them with this language barrier was amazing, because at the end of it, like after spending a whole day together, like we felt like we've known each other our whole lives. And subhanAllah, like one of the orphans, like and let me remind you that the Helping Hand, they treat these orphans like their own. So just because they're people in need, they don't want to make them feel like that. So they give them phones. So just like we're teenagers, we have our phones, Helping Hand supply them as well. and one of the orphans put my picture with him as his background, saying, "I would never forget you." And that's something that's going to stick with me forever. Just from that one day.
Wow, subhanAllah. So the language barrier seems like it might have been a long-lasting problem the whole week that y'all were there. So was that actually a problem, or did that not seem like a problem? Because Arshak, from what you're saying, it didn't seem like it was that bad, considering the fact that y'all still had that bond even after.
I think everyone is capable of laughing and having fun and enjoying with each other. The language, that comes secondary. I think some of the things we did, we went bike riding, we went to the Dead Sea, we were laughing, we were playing, we're still joking around with each other. Those are things that you don't need a language for.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, Sheikh Hamid, one of the helping hand staff, he's we're eating lunch, and then afterwards we're just being young fools, young men, and he starts playing these games. So he calls one of the Youth for Jordan brothers, and he tells them, he tells his little group, like, okay, we're gonna call people, and as they come, we're just gonna laugh and pretend like we're making like a big joke, and everyone else will feel left out. So he would call one person, and then everyone would laugh, like, just obnoxiously, and then everyone else is like, what's going on? And then he would call the next person, like, oh, Osama, come here. And then they're all laughing. He's like, what happened? And then the next person, and despite the language barrier, I think, like, at a human level, just the emotional connection that you can have with the person through your body language, through your facial expression, through your touch, these were the things that we learned, and it was a process. By day 2, when we speak about the orphanage home, we'll speak about how down to earth we became, and playing with the young kids.
So with that being said, I mean, we can go on and keep on talking about day 1, obviously, forever, but it seems like day 2 was a really big day. So do y'all want to go ahead and talk about what happened then?
Arshak, you can take it away.
Yeah, so day 2, we went to the Helping Hand staff facility. And one of the things that we got to see was the Skills Development Center. And these are widows learning how to work. And they're teaching them the little basics for them to be able to work on their own and provide for their families. So experiencing that firsthand was, we actually got to make our own tasbihs and jewelry. So it was very neat for us to learn how to do it. And it was actually fun too. And we actually got to keep it at the end. So that was one of the most, something to take from Jordan.
Yeah, I think to speak about day 2, in the morning, well, actually, I'll back up a bit. With Hamza, actually, we just add in another story. So in my left pocket is my phone, right? And he takes that out and he sees it. And at the same time, I'm actually making tasbih in my hand. Just it was a long bus ride. And it's one in particular that one of my friends had gifted me a few years back. And Hamza, he sees the tasbih, and so he asked for it. And so then, I tell him, make a dhikr of Allah. You can say 33 times, Alhamdulillah, Subhanallah, Allahu Akbar. And so he takes the tasbih and he starts doing it. And then he puts it in his pocket. And I'm like sitting there awkwardly, like, oh man, like, in my head, I'm like, you'll give that back to me, right? Like he put it in his pocket. So I'm like, okay, yeah. Like, I'm like, maybe he'll just, he'll give it back to me at the end of the day or something. So I was like, give him the benefit of the doubt. So we get to the Dead Sea. The entire day we're playing and whatnot. And in my head, just mentally, I'm like, man, like that must be like I have a special attachment to. And not only because my friend actually gifted me, but I loved everything about it. Like I've been using it consistently, man, for over a year. And whenever if you read from a certain mushaf, or if you have a certain attachment to a gift that someone has given you, you're gonna have that sentiment towards it. So even the colors of the bead, like it was all black, man, it was such a smooth texture. Like it would fold in my pocket, and it's not one of those tasbihs you could like, it would break or something in your pocket. Like, that's what I loved everything about it. And I was struggling so much to let go of it. And then mentally, you know, during that day, I told myself, you know what, Wasiq, like, Hamza probably will never get a tasbih, you know, anywhere else. And this could be a way for him to come closer to Allah if you give it to him, right? And so I, you know, made a sincere intention that, you know what, I'm gonna gift it to him, and you know, I'm gonna do it in a way like a pinky promise. So I made a deal with him. So I have my friend Osama translate to him, and I tell him that, you know, that you can keep the tasbih, as long as you make dhikr every day. So in that way, I would teach him and train him, you know, that he's actually practicing and keeping up with the worship, right? And you know, I give it to him, and he laughs, and we shake hands and whatnot. And then the next day in the morning, we enter the Helping Hand office in Amman, and we enter the skills development program on the first floor. And the sister, you know, explains the entire overview of the program, and she's showing the widows actually affected by the Syrian crisis. And she says, you know, they come here and they learn skills such as detergent making and making crafts, and you can just see all over the wall all these crafts that they made, and people buy them, and then they take these things that they self-produce and go and sell them, and so it makes an income for themselves, and so they become stable on their own. And then she tells us that you know, what we're going to make, I have a gift to give you guys today, and we're gonna make tasbih. And I remember in that moment, I was like, man, just the day before, I was struggling so much to give, you know, that tasbih that I had gifted from a friend that I was so attached to. And then the next day, Allah is rewarding me and giving me back. And Osama, he told me, he was like, man, look at Allah's qadr, and when you give for the sake of Allah, Allah's gonna reward you.
And subhanAllah, man, it's an amazing reflection, honestly, because truly it just kind of shows that, you know, inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, right? Everything belongs to Allah, everything returns to Allah. So, you know, we can, you know, harp on some of the smallest, or it would be for us the biggest things, but in the hindsight of it, it could be, you know, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can easily give something back. And subhanAllah, honestly, I remember when I went, unfortunately, I wasn't as lucky as y'all to go with Youth for Jordan. I ended up going like with Uncles for Jordan. So when I went, we were told to pick out any sort of, you know, whether it be, you know, a tasbih or whatever it is, just pick out something from the things that they've created. And because of the uncles and because of my age being what it is, they were like, all right, well, it seems like you're marriage age, so get some jewelry for you to give to your wife or something. And literally they followed through with it. And now I still have this sitting with me. It's a little necklace type of thing that was given from what they created over there. So granted, got nobody to give it to yet, but something that I definitely treasure from over there is that experience of just even having, you know, the struggles of what they created, just be, you know, with you. So definitely something where, you know, seeing those skills, seeing where it's just long lasting and everything, it was a very good feeling to see that, you know, it's like that analogy, right? You can give a man a fish for a day, right? But the real benefit is when you know, teach a man to fish, because that lasts for a lifetime. So being able to, you know, have a center where these widows can actually develop some sort of a skill that they can take and actually make money off of, which is very difficult to make. That's it's a huge thing to see, definitely. But as Arshak was saying, you know, the second part of it was actually going to the orphanage home itself. So would love to hear a little bit more about that. What were some of the stories and everything, you know, tied to that?
So the orphanage home, this is one of my favorite moments. When we first sat down, this is a Quran orphanage. And so they all went ahead and recited Quran. And I kid you not, these were the most beautiful voices I've ever heard in my life. And wallahi, if these are individuals that were just picked out to be at that orphanage, imagine all those kids that don't have the opportunity to learn from them, or to learn from a reciter or a teacher from that orphanage. right? So there's so many talents and like so much of talent all around the world. And for Helping Hand to give these kids an opportunity to learn and educate themselves and express their talents is beyond words. So after they recited, they asked for me to recite, and after I recited, they were the ones complimenting me, and I felt ashamed. But right after that, those moments, it was moments of tears of how beautiful they were reciting. But instantly, Talha, our mentor, he picked up one of the kids, and from there, the mood just switched. And all of a sudden, and Wasiq built up on this, we're all flipping each other around. It turned into WWE Royal Rumble with the boys, and it was such an amazing time. We all had a blast and laughing, joking, and Wasiq starting all these different games, and you can explain on more.
Yeah, for sure. So, man, Arshak was right. As soon as we just kind of like, it was like a balloon just popped. And then all of a sudden you see, man, Hussein, you see all the brothers just wrestling with the kids, putting them on their shoulders, and they're all laughing and everything. And the girls, I think they might have been praying, they come back in the room. And so all the guys, like they were all, playing with the guys, and they didn't realize, like, man, all the young girls, like, they're just sitting there. So I'm like, shoot, like, what can I do? And they don't wrestle or nothing. So like, you're trying to think like, okay, how can you engage with them? So I start playing patty cake with them. So I'm playing patty cake with them, and another brother, he joins me, Ali, and he starts playing like thumb wrestle with them. And I'm like, man, this is boring, Ali. Like, not gonna lie, like we gotta step up our game. Like literally right behind us, all the guys, like, they're just loud, and they're having just a blast. So then I'm like, okay, let me try playing Simon Says. And so I start just making a movement, like, like go like this, and then they would copy. And then like Osama, he translated the rules to them about like, okay, this is how you play. And then I realized in my head, like, these girls, they don't know Simon. That's an American name. Like, let me ask them their name. So I asked some of the girls their name, and one of them was like, okay, Maria. So then I say it in Arabic, Qalat Maria, like, she says. So then I'm like, Qalat Maria this, and then they would follow. So it's like right here, and then I would go like this. I would make all these different movements, and they were just having such a good time. And then later I switched into another game, and I tell them that they have to guess which animal I am. So I would start doing like a cow, and I would moo, and then I would do like a dog and bark, and then they would guess what I am. And I remember specifically one of the girls, we switched the game, and they told me which animal to become. So one of them, they told me to become a horse. So like I get on all fours, and then she laughs, and she says, she was like your imitation is so bad, like you suck at it. And I remember, like, man, just the joy that we were able to give to these kids. And I'll mention, the ending of this day. We were, we took this group picture, and then we were walking out. So after this group picture, we're walking out. Everyone's saying goodbyes. We're kissing all the kids, and they were just so impacted by us. And then I see, let me see if I have another picture of them right here on the right side. So in the picture with me on the left is Aya, is Rama, and then on the right is Rima and Roaya. And we're leaving, and so all the girls, they in the orphanage home, they go upstairs, and then I'm about to leave and go downstairs to go to the bus. And then I see Aya, she comes back, and she sees me, and she starts walking back down the stairs, and then she starts putting her hands up like to play patty cake again. And I'm like, oh man, like I gotta go, like, all the brothers are downstairs, like I'm literally like the last guy. And I start playing patty cake with her, and then Rama and Rima come down as well, and then you can see them getting jealous, and they're like, Anna, like play with me too. So I'm playing patty cake with Aya, and then I have to go to Rima, and then I have to go to Rama, and I'm playing with all of them. And it wasn't until I had to go down the stairs, and as I'm walking down, because Jakir, the mentor, he's like, Wasiq, like, yo, we gotta go. Like, come on. So I'm like, okay. And my heart was so heavy because in that moment, I realized that these girls don't have fathers. And these girls are seeking attention. And for us, we are that male figure for them in their life. And the joy and the connection that we felt with them. I remember as I was playing the game, I told them, and I had Osama translate to me, I told them that, you know, I'm going to remember this day forever. And I was like, despite me being from America and you being from Jordan, like what brings us together is Islam. And I remember just the smile on their face. And I was ready to go and I was ready to leave, but they couldn't leave us. They were hanging on to us, and the joy that they felt that they couldn't get from their own parents is what they were seeking. And man, I get on the bus, and Ahmad, who's on my shoulder right here, he comes back, he's running back to the bus, and he was just so happy. He didn't even have his shoes on. He literally wanted to come on the bus and say goodbye, and he's high-fiving all of us. And then as soon as he leaves, Brother Khalid, he mentions the hadith about, you know, the greatest deed you can do for someone is making them smile. And in that moment, man, I broke down. I broke down because I realized that there was no one else who could provide them that joy that us brothers had, despite us not knowing Arabic, despite us not being of Arab descent. That connection was just there, and it was just so profound.
So with that, I think that was the end of day 2 in that case. So let's go ahead and move inshallah to day 3. Arshak, how was day 3? What did it look like?
So we were on our way to Al-Mafraq camp, and we stopped at Al-Zatari camp. And this is one of the biggest camps in all of Jordan. And I think it had about 80,000 refugee families that were living there. And let me remind you that these are all tents, and they all look the same. So just to put this into perspective, like think about it, that there could be women living alone, there could be daughters, no male figure in the house, and no doors to lock themselves, to protect themselves at night. Animals, strangers can walk in at any time. So imagine that for them to feel, for us to be able to live in a home where we can lock ourselves and feel protected. That's something to think about. And really, in the Zatari camp, one of the stories we learn is with the mothers. She was telling us that her daughters don't speak to her anymore. And just to tell you what happened is, one night they tried to escape from this camp, and the mother and her daughters planned to leave at nighttime. And while they were escaping, one of the guards caught them, and he questioned them, and he was like, "Where are you guys going?" And he knew that they were trying to escape. So he gave them 2 choices, and these choices were, there were a lose-lose situation, where either they would have to go back and face severe punishment, and you don't know what they would do to them. Like, they could do anything to them, and this is something that they were afraid, and the mother in that situation. And then the second option came, and she said, and the guard said, either you leave and face severe punishment, or number 2, you leave one of the daughters behind with him. And in that situation, for her to make a decision, do I protect all my kids, or do I protect at least 2 of them? And she had to take the second choice. And for her to make that decision, she has the right as a mother, and you don't know what they would have done if they would have took the severe punishment. But just to think about that is, for us to be able to live safely, the blessing of living in a home where we feel safe. That's something to think about. And I think Wasiq can build on to
Yeah,
that.
I'll transition to Al-Mafraq, which is the first camps, you know, we're visiting. And so just to give you some context, the specific camps that we visited, Helping Hand, unlike other NGOs, actually goes to the ones that are isolated, you know, right along the border of Syria, actually. And so the Zaatari camp, you know, you have UN there, you have all these worldwide NGOs there providing relief. It's the world's largest refugee camps, tent camps all in the world. So 300,000 people, but over here, more isolated, remote areas. And so the first experience we get of these camps are the bathrooms. And you can see on the right, that is their bathroom. And on the inside, you know, that is where they have to release. And we with Helping Hand were coming actually to deliver, you know, a 4x4, you know, closed door bathroom. And we, as we're interacting with all these refugees, the first wish that they have, the first wish, they don't want education, they don't want a home, they just want a clean bathroom. Because at nighttime, especially for the daughters and the women, when they have to leave their tents, they don't know if anyone out there is going to harm them. They don't know if any scorpion or snake is going to bite them. The children are unguarded and they're not safe. And you can't, to even have the basic necessity of relieving yourself taken away from you. That was, you know, shocking to us. And so we come and we deliver on the left. This is the bathroom. Arshak, if you want to mention, if you remember the light story with this little kid right here, you can go for that.
Yeah. So we picked up one of the kids and we wanted him to turn on the lights, and he didn't know what lights were. He's never seen this in his life. And for him to switch it on and see the light come on, he started laughing, and his smile widened, and as you can see in the picture. And something so small, like some things that, the things that we complain about are the things that they dream about.
Yeah, and so during this Al-Mafra camp, we deliver the bathroom, and then we go and we are delivering food supplies to all the different tents around. So this is one tent that we enter, and I'll mention a few interactions that I have with the people that we're interacting with. And so you just look around and you see all these, you know, different tents, and you're wondering about the kids there, because everything around is just desert. And Syria is literally a few miles away. Honestly, we could have walked there and got to there in an hour. Like, you could see the border. Brother Hisham, the Helping Hand staff, he was mentioning to us that because of how close they are, these refugees made it across the border, but back home they still have family members. And whenever they hear bombs that are dropping, they don't even know if that their family, they don't even know if that's their family or not. And not only can they hear and see it, but the ground, because it's so close, the ground of where their tents are shake. And so imagine the trauma that the families have to go through of not knowing, of hearing and feeling the bombs shake the ground beneath them and not knowing if their family is still alive, get alone the conditions that they themselves have to live in. And the kids there's no education, man. There's no school, there's no teachers, there's no, you know, education system. You know, and all these families, of course, are Muslim. So we asked, you know, one of the mothers, and we're like, okay, well, there's no education here, but how do you guys teach the children Islam? And she tells us that they don't even know the letters of the Quran. The month of Ramadan is coming and we have the book right out of our hands. And how much we take for granted the ability to read it, the ability to understand it, the ability to have the guidance of Islam. And here there's a generation that is being raised up and they don't even know their primary identity in this world of being a Muslim. I asked one of the fathers, I say, what do you guys do on a daily? Like what is there to do? And he replies to me and he's like, man, if we didn't have our children, we would be depressed. We would be mentally ill because there would be nothing to look forward to. And in this specific family, you know, despite all of this, the joy and the contentment that these people had was something I could not even explain. I could not even explain. We come in, man, and they don't even have, you know, anything, you know, to give us, but they were so hospitable and they wanted, because we're there for their aid. They make us, you know, small cups of coffee and tea for us to drink. They're laughing with us. We're playing with the kids. And this family here, you know, I asked them a question. I say, so what are your needs? Like what is a wish that you had? And she says the first thing, as I mentioned earlier, she says the first thing we want is a bathroom. The second thing we want is a home. They live in a tent. And man, the dust, you know, in summertime, it blows in. It's at nighttime, you don't know what's out there. It's not secure. Anyone can come inside. If they have a weapon, man, they can take advantage of the daughters they have and do whatever they want. And the third thing that they said was an education for their kids. And specifically, I remember the mother, she says that we don't want our kids to be raised up jahil. In Arabic, meaning ignorant. Because an ignorant person can be taken advantage of when they grow up by anybody, by the government, by anybody. And the conditions that they live in, but despite that, their tawakkul with Allah, that's what they learned. That they may not have anything, but they have Allah. And they're always grateful. So Arshak, I don't know if you have anything to add with Al-Mafraq before we go.
I think you touched on a lot of it, and I'll just go over like their everyday lives, to see Syria right there, and to look at where they are right now from what they used to be. And now after the war, and while it's everything that's going on there right now, imagine thinking about returning there and to go back where everything is destroyed, the kind of things they think about and that go through their heads. And their children, like you mentioned, man, they're growing up with no education, right? The dreams that we have, right? They don't even know what's out there in the world. What is there to dream about? What is there to become? So these are things that like we have, and we have the ability to support them. We have the ability to do whatever we want to do, but they don't. And that's something that we need to think about. That's something that we need to always carry in our hearts and be grateful for everything.
So there's actually one story from my time in Mafraq as well, to really hit on that point of how much, even when you ask them what they wish for, how much they have, you know, like hamd, like shukr, like thankfulness for whatever they have. When we went there was a specific widow that we met, Syrian widow. She lived there with her 3 or 4 children, actually. 1 daughter and 3 sons. And of those, both the daughter and one of the sons were both blind. And one of the other sons had a severe case of epilepsy. And the widow would always be, when we actually went into her tent, she apologized to us and tried to make, you know, some sort of tea or something for us in her little tent. And her tent was maybe not even as big as maybe my own even room. And she was apologizing to us constantly, saying, I'm sorry that we are disrespecting you for being present into our tent, which is in a situation like this. She was apologizing to us about that and was trying to force herself to go and make tea for us out of that hospitality. And again, she was a widow. Her son and daughter were blind, and one with a severe case of epilepsy. And when I say severe, I mean very severe. There would be nights and nights that kid would leave and run out of the tent in the middle of the night, screaming and yelling off the top of his lungs in the middle of the desert with nowhere to go. But he would just keep on going and would be lost in the middle of the desert. And it got so bad. And obviously, as a widow, as a mother, she would be concerned every single night that he would go out there and do that. And it got so bad that the Jordanian locals that were living there threatened her, saying, if you do not control him, we'll kick you out of this location, of this tent even. And her son, when we sat there, was actually tied up because any moment he would have just gone ballistic. So they had to tie him up just to make sure that they can contain him and get him, you know, that remedy for his epilepsy. But the thing that really hits me about this entire story is you look at a story where it's a widow with kids that are disabled that are living in the middle of the desert with constant troubles and fears every single night. And you ask that lady every single time, what is it that you want? She didn't even say bathroom. She didn't even say home. She said nothing. She said, Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. With everything that she was going through, one of the hardest and difficult situations that she could have possibly dealt with, her only wish was nothing. Alhamdulillah. All I need is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just like Ibrahim alayhi salam in his story. And her only desire was to eventually see a peaceful Syria where she can go back home. That was her only wish. But it really does go with what Wasiq was saying about the people living in those tents. But with that, go ahead and move on, inshallah, with the next day.
So, Arshak, we have about, I think, 10, 15 minutes. So I'm going to move to day 4. I don't know if you want to speak on the school briefly.
You can go and start.
Okay. Well, we can go to Gaza camp if you want. Okay. And so day 4, we go to Gaza camp, which is of the 14, 15 Palestinian camps in Jordan. Gaza camp is one of the poorest. And so we're there and we're playing with all the kids on the street. And the first thing we do is we're visiting the different homes that Helping Hand actually aids with. And mind you, the Palestinians in these camps are like literally quarantined off. They don't have the same access to hospitals, to resources, that anyone outside of the Palestinian camps do in the rest of Jordan. And so, you know, I remember seeing some of the homes. The Jordanian government doesn't, because Palestinians aren't citizens of the country, they don't have real rooftops on their home. They just have like a steel plate. And that's
metal
it.
sheets.
Yeah, nothing. And I remember, man, describing it when I came back. And I'm from Houston, and so when Hurricane Harvey happened, and I remember the impact that it had on, you know, just destroying all these homes, and you would go home to home and it's just all torn up and you have to muck and gut and this and that. That was what the homes look like over here. Just so cramped. No, you know, just water leaking through, the walls are torn up, and that's how they live. Because the Palestinians, they were in tent camps at one point, and they were just tossed up in this area, and that's what they have to go through. So this boy right here, Abdullah, his story, he on the left side, I'm holding him up, and in my arms, I'm trying to cheer him up, and I say to him in Arabic, "Ana uhibbak," I love you. "Ana uhibbak fi sabilillah," I love you for the sake of Allah. And he gives me this weird stare that every other kid I would say it to in Arabic, man, they would smile, they would like feel the love or whatnot. But Abdullah, he literally stared at me back as if he had not heard that, as if it was some strange phrase that he heard. And we come to know his mother, you know, on right here in the left picture. She tells us that his father passed away actually 2 weeks ago. He was an electrician and he got electrocuted. And because of no access to the hospitals, they couldn't rush there on time. He passes away. And Abdullah, he kept asking, "Where is Baba? Where is Baba?" He didn't even know. And I found this out after I'm holding him up and I say, "I love you" to him. And the connection just kind of came together that the love that he's missing right now from his own father isn't there. Then later we go to, or Shai, I don't know if you had anything to add about the grandfather of the child.
So the grandfather immediately, as soon as he saw all of us, he was so happy, but then immediately he began to tear, and he started to tear, and we asked him why, and he says, "I wish I could feed you all a meal." He's like, the hospitality they have, he wished he could feed all of us. And he was the grandfather to all the Palestinians in that camp. And because he didn't, he started to tear up. And even if they had a little bit of what they had, they would have given it all for us, because that's how much love they had, because we believe in Allah, and that's all that we share in common, right? For him to show that love, to love you for the sake of Allah. And actually, speaking on the Palestinian camps, like you mentioned, there was no real roofs. The government only allows them to have metal sheets. And on top of that, that they only offer a handful of scholarships to the kids. So thinking about that they only have a handful of scholarships, these kids don't get the best education to begin with in the first place. So I'll actually move on to when we were at the school and we were playing with these kids, playing soccer and having fun. And Sheikh Kamel, he shared with us a story. He says, when they were having an orphan event at the school, one of the orphans invited his neighbor, who was not an orphan. And he was playing with him at the school. And Sheikh Kamel, he gets a call that the father of that kid passes away. And in that orphan event, that kid becomes an orphan. And now he's thinking, how do I break it down to this kid, right? And he takes him like his own, and he starts treating him like his own, and being there and comforting him. And this is something that, you know, this is the reality of it, right? And being in those situations, we need to really be grateful for the opportunities that we have and take advantage of them.
So on the last day, we were delivering micro homes to the entire day, just different micro homes, right? And so in these homes, they're being provided with you know, a closed secure door. They have a room. They actually have a toilet seat and a sink as well. This woman right here, we enter and she's actually paralyzed from bottom down. And we see her and she's making tasbih. As soon as we enter, the entire time we're talking to her, and the entire time she's responding, but she's still making tasbih. And so we ask her, you know, why are you making tasbih? And she says that I thank Allah that don't you see, I'm thanking Allah, and He is and He's the one who brought aid to me. Because she's in a micro home right now, where we actually came to deliver a micro home for her nephew and nieces who are outside in one of the tents. And she's teaching us. She just begins talking, and she's telling us all these different things. And she was like, look, be grateful to Allah. Be grateful to Allah. Have patience. Allah is with the patient. Allah is with the patient. And you're sitting here and you're thinking that this paralyzed woman who will never be able to leave from her spot is telling us how grateful she is. And she can't even move. She doesn't have that freedom. And she doesn't have the same resources. And I was so touched by her, because in every moment of her life, she never forgot Allah. She never forgot Allah. And Arshak, I think you had some input to this woman as well.
No, this woman, when we think about her, she, number one, her health is taken away, her wealth is taken away, her family is taken away, right? Her most beloved person, her brother, who would take care of her in a way that if they had nothing to eat, or if for example, if they were to have nothing to drink, like he loved her in a way that he would have gave her his own tears. And she was telling us that there's not a blink that she doesn't pray for him and think about him, right? And just thinking about our relationship with our siblings and our families, right? We want them to pray for us constantly. And like you mentioned, when we walked in, she was counting her blessings. And when we think about that from the verse of وَإِن تُعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تُحْصُوهَا, that if you were to count the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, never would you be able to count that. And we look at our situations and the lives that we are living, how blessed we are even in this current situation that's happening in the world right now, a universal issue, right? But you look at someone who has nothing, right? But for them to say that they have everything, for them to say that Allah has blessed them so much, right, really puts into perspective that ayah, that verse, that we can't truly thank Allah for everything. But you mentioned that when you return back to that home with the older woman, paralyzed woman, that what happened after that?
That's right. So right after we visit this woman, where we set up the micro home for the nephew, and then I went to the bus with Ali, one of the other brothers, and we get some juice and we get some water and we get some things that we can give to her before we leave, like whatever we can give as a means of a gift. And immediately she was so happy, and she starts making dua for us, man. She just starts saying all these things, and Ali, he's translating, and she says that, may Allah bless you with a long life. May Allah allow you to return to America safely. May Allah bless you with the best of spouses and this and that. And I remember Ali, because he could understand the Arabic. We get back on the bus, and he tells me, he's a Wasiq, like, perhaps Allah took us all across the world for us to visit this specific woman, and for her to say a dua and Allah accept it. And the lesson to be taken from that is, when you serve others, regardless of being over there or in America, when you serve others, the favors that you give, the duas that people will make for the charity that you give, you never know where it's going to come from. You never know how Allah may accept it, because the dua of an oppressed person, the dua of someone who is in need, that is automatically accepted. So we have a few more minutes. Should I play these videos and then we talk about our most emotional experience and then conclude from there?
Absolutely.
Okay. So you can speak to like playing with the kids and whatnot if you want to go for it.
So we brought out a bus and we started playing these nasheeds and songs. We started teaching them this dance.
You want to play this one too?
Yeah, go ahead and play that. It was such a catchy song. but we loved playing with them, and they all enjoyed and they were into it. And right after we were playing with them with the songs, we threw out a ball, and these kids start running after this ball and started having so much fun playing around. And from there, you saw the joy, especially not just from the kids, their faces of their parents watching us was like the staff said, they've never seen the parents laugh and smile so hard in a way that they've ever seen before. So that you can just tell the impact you make not just on their kids, makes an impact on their parents as well.
Yeah, and I'll mention this last story from the entire trip. On the right side, this girl right here is Rahaf, and the entire time we're playing, you can even see in the video, I think towards the end, I'm playing the dance with her next to her, and so the entire time I'm playing with her, and then we go and we deliver supplies to all the different tent camps, and in the middle of one of the deliveries, I see her out on her own, and I was playing tag with them earlier, so I see her alone, so then I tag her and I kind of run away, and she's chasing me, and she catches up to me, and then this is me and her. And she says some stuff. She says something in Arabic to me, and I didn't know what she said to me, so I recorded it on my phone. And I don't know if I had the audio on here. I don't think I have the audio. But then later my friend translates it to me, and she says that I ask her like, what, like, say it again, like shu, and then she says, come visit us, and I say every day, and she was like, not every day, but anytime that you're here, you're welcome. And I remember just when I heard what she was saying to me, I was so elated that she is so welcoming to us. And though, I knew that was the only time that I would get to, interact with her. And so after that interaction with her, we go and we visit one last camp, and then we come out, and then it's time to go. And I see Rahaf, and she's with her girls, and they're all lined up, and it's time to say goodbye. So I hug her, and as soon as I hug her, she says something in Arabic to me, and Osama translates immediately. And she says, "Are you going to forget me?" And immediately I was like, never. I'm never going to forget you. And I remember Osama, he was telling me earlier that, Rahaf said that she wants to be a lawyer. And personally myself, I want to become a lawyer too. I'm a pre-law student. And I the last thing that I said to her was that, we're going to change this world together. And we go to the bus, and Osama, he immediately is like, yo, get the coordinates of this place. Like we got to pull up our phone, figure out the Google Maps, find the coordinates of this place, because inshallah we pray that Rahaf gets to fulfill her dream, that I can come back one day and find Rahaf and be able to provide for her an education. And for all of these kids, they don't have anything around them, but their dreams are so magnificent. And they want to become a doctor, they want to become a lawyer, they want to become all these things. And subhanallah, I was so touched by Rahaf. And that was the last interaction that I had. And when she said, "Are you going to forget me?" that was what I carried with me to this day. That am I going to forget the experiences of orphans who don't have their fathers and mothers because they are killed in the crisis? Am I going to forget the conditions of the people in these tent camps that don't have access to the basic necessity of using the restroom, that don't have an education, that don't have, you know, food and water supplied as we do, you know, can't take a shower when they wish? Am I going to forget, you know, the entire life-changing experience? And mind you, this was just 1 week, and my heart was so touched and I was so impacted that I thought to myself, Wasiq, you haven't even seen, if this is the refugees who are not in a crisis, imagine if you were actually inside Palestine. Imagine if you could feel the pain of the Uyghur brother and sisters who are in detention camps, who are being organ harvested. You haven't even seen what the Rohingya are going through. You haven't even seen the violence and the bloodshed. And if I saw just even 1 second of that, I know it would have such an impact on me. And just this week alone, you know, coming back, I felt so guilty. I felt like, you know, it's Allah's given us an opportunity. I recognize the value when I returned back to America of my education, the value of my parents, the value of you know, food, water, of everything. And to this day, it still carries with me. Arshak, if you want to end with some post reflections,
Right.
things you learn.
Right. And on top of that, just to build off that, like, man, even if we were to get sick, even if we were to, you know, feel ill, we have the ability to, you know, go to the hospitals, visit. For them to be in the middle of nowhere, for them to get a ride to the hospital, for them to be taken care of. Number one, they don't have the means. Number two, just getting to the camp, I don't know if we described it, the roads are terrible. There is no roads, actually, right? It's just bumps. And subhanAllah, like, that's something that sticks with me, that the lives that we complain about is the lives they dream about. And the scholars, they say, dhikr, when you start to make dhikr, the angels, they start building your mansion. And just something I learned from that paralyzed woman, right? That when you stop making dhikr, then the angels stop building that mansion. And it's not as great as we want to have that mansion in both in this world and the hereafter. It's really not about the mansion. It's about the owner of that mansion that we're after, right? And just to think about that, to come on the day of judgment and to meet Allah with Him pleased with what we have done, and for Him to accept everything that we have done, for Him to give us all of our blessings, right? Who has given us everything. If we don't use that for good, if we don't use everything that He has given us for His sake, then what does that say about us, right? That's something that constantly, that we're put in these positions to help them. We're put in these situations to be people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses, right? So being in these positions that we are, that are in, we need to really think, and we need to reflect and constantly thank, as well as serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as best as we can, starting from our communities, starting from the refugees in our communities, but not forgetting those who are overseas, not forgetting them, because they need to be in our hearts. We hear about these things, we read about these things, but I encourage everyone to go out there, if you have the means, to go out there and visit them and spend time with them and learn from them, because you will learn so much more than you can give them. And when you're out there learning from them, one of the things is that we need to understand that the blessings that we were given, that, and I'll repeat this again, that the blessings that we were given, we need to use them for good, so that Allah is pleased with us. And Wasi, you can build off.
Yeah, the last few minutes, I'm gonna share a poem to close off. So if you're still there, just stick with us for a few more minutes. Just want to mention that Helping Hand for Relief and Development was the organization that allowed me and Arshak to go, as well as young Muslims, on this trip. And they currently are running a They Still Need Us campaign for the needy all across the world, whether it's Syria, Yemen, Rohingya, in Africa, affected by coronavirus, COVID-19 currently. If there was anything that you benefited from this, right? If you felt inspired or impacted and just feeling the pain of the ummah, I promise you that the joy that we saw in interacting with everyone, just the service that we were able to provide, I wish my entire life that I could work for Helping Hand, I promise you, just so I can be in a position where I can constantly be of benefit to others. The Prophet ﷺ, he says that the best deed is making someone happy. The best deed is relieving someone's grief, right? The best deed, not prayer, not your personal ibadah, but helping humanity. So if there's any way that you can support, please go to Helping Hand. They Still Need Us. Donate. You support young Muslims. It's an honor, and I'm so grateful. And I'm sure Arshak shares this as well, that being a part of this organization where we as youth can learn gratitude, where we can see the conditions of the ummah, where we can connect and share these reflections for you guys on this platform. It's subhanallah. We need your support to continue to invest in more youth that are out there. Arshak, if you have anything to close off, and then I can play the video.
Right. And it's our nature in general to be people who forget. It's our nature that we are weak sometimes, and we are ungrateful. But what Islam has given us, that we are people who are capable of being people who are grateful, capable of being those people who do remember Allah in times of difficulty, in times of in joy. And on top of that, we are people being strong. And we need to love, as the Prophet ﷺ said, to love your brother for what you love for yourself, to love for one another what you love for yourself. So if you want them to live in a way that you are living, or actually better, right, then we have to pray for them. We need to support them with whatever means we have. And on top of that, that we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives them the best in this world. He gives us all the best in this world, the hereafter, and protection from the hellfire. Inshallah, we'll go ahead and play that next video.
Yeah. So this poem that I wrote was fresh off the experience. I wrote this poem literally on the plane ride back to Houston, and so it'll give you, it'll help you tap into the emotional connection of what we went through. I mean, it's hard speaking to a camera and going through this way. The emotional connection is kind of lost, but inshallah, this poem will wrap it up with can give you some insight into what I experienced in the trip, and the same feelings that all the brothers from the trip felt, and it kind of summarizes all the reflections, stories, and lessons. So inshallah, we'll close off on this.
We get to go back. They don't. They have to stay there forever. Allah, why did you pick me to witness the conditions of our ummah? To be the face of hope for those who have lost everything. To be the father for girls who cannot express their love. To be the older brother of a child with no parents. I'm not deserved of this. For my entire life, I never thanked you for these blessings. I'm deluded in luxury. My life had no bliss. It had no joy. It had no satisfaction. How can a paralyzed woman living in a tent in the middle of the desert with her children unguarded, be in bliss. Every moment of her life, her tongue is wet with the remembrance of God. She tells us that I thank Allah. He is the one who takes care of me. Why does an entire community of refugees pick one tent to give the restroom to? Why are they willing to give to those who need it more? Why am I unwilling to give up what I love? Why haven't I learned trust in Allah? Why am I wasting my time? Why don't I feel their pain? Why haven't I realized the blessings in my life? I would rather live in simplicity and trade my entire life of luxury to have the peace that these people do. I'm scared in America. I'm scared that I will misuse my opportunity. I'm scared that I won't be able to cry. My entire life around me is just a distraction. This world is just a deception. Every little thing I do is a waste unless I do it for the sake of Allah. To observe the reality of life for a moment. To observe the reality of life for a moment, you will beg to never lose it. You will fear a life of distraction, of pointless motions, of addictions, of desires. You will value every breath. You will value every soul. You will value selflessness. You will give. You will give everything that you have. You won't think twice. You will give because you value mercy. There is something protecting you in a life of gratitude, in a life of patience, in a life of hoping for an eternal reward. Rahaf was the last girl that I saw. She wants to be a lawyer, just like me. She doesn't have an education, but her dreams are so strong. We played the entire time, and I secretly give her a gift. She tells me, "Are you going to forget me?" I say never. I tell her we're going to change this world together. I tell myself, what will I do for these people? Will I actually remember Rahaf forever? But first, how will I change myself?
Inshallah, this video, I haven't finished the edits. Actually, I'm supposed to put the background Naseed and add some clips in between. I'll be posting it to my social media this Ramadan, and also be able to raise funds for the Youth for Jordan Brothers. We put together a fundraiser to raise 4 micro homes. So inshallah, if you want to keep posted with the video, you can follow my social media at WiseIQ on Instagram and Facebook, which is just my name, Wasiq Javed. So inshallah, when that video is out, you can support our cause, inshallah. With that, I don't have any more words. Arshak, I don't know if you have anything.
Yeah, we also want you to support the They Still Need Us campaign, and also young Muslims to continue guys to start applying for trips like this. We encourage all of you guys to join. That way you can experience it firsthand, because it's really a different experience than just to read about it and listen to it. But to see these things, it's really life-changing and touching to your heart, and it's necessary for the soul. But if there's anything that we said that we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us, and if there's anything that was beneficial and it's from Allah and Allah alone.
Ameen. Jazakallah khair again for both of y'all for sharing those stories. We went, definitely way over time. But I think really the message that we wanted to get across, alhamdulillah, has definitely gotten across. So again, Jazakallah khair for that. Again, just to echo, remember that quarantine is affecting the entire world. So just as how we're not able to Just as how here people are, getting laid off, people there, they're not even able to go out and work. So this may be affecting us, but it's not nearly the same as it's affecting them. So that They Still Need Us campaign is very, very important. They need to get as much funds as needed to distribute to those people of the stories that Wasiq and Arshak talked about tonight. So with that, inshallah, we'll go ahead and end. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.
Assalamu alaikum.
Do we leave? Or we're
Yeah,
good?
let's leave.
We're off for it.
Are we? That's awkward.
Just double checking real quick.
But we didn't even touch on half the stories, man. It was so many stories to tell. But alhamdulillah.
Oh, we need 3 hours to be able to.
I know.
Bro,
We're still alive, bro.
yeah, all right. We'll talk later, inshallah.
Inshallah.
All right, let's leave, inshallah.
All right, assalamu alaikum.
Like I said.
Assalamu.